The peace journalism alternative offers an alternative to explore the conflict formation, see the all involved structural parties, historical trends, those not are total visible, but who are a part of the problem which is not mentioned. The structural thing, to happen open-minded. The war journalism, think us and them perspective. They are the problem. We are the solution. The peace journalism say, come on, perhaps the war is the problem. And the answer is to look for non-violent response to present to the audience when there's a strong argumentation for continue the war. And to keep of this professional attitude in these heated times, I said it's almost impossible. I saw television this morning. The Pakistani news reporter actually used a news clip from Indian television to criticize their way of reporting. The president said, this reporter has left her professional role. She's warmongering. This is not a professional attitude. And I asked myself, okay, how is the Pakistani position here now? I think research in the future will, I hope they do better. I hope so. I'm sure they try to, but it's difficult. And only recent research can tell the truth. And this you should teach your students. And this is my whole point here. To give this just a short definition, because there's a huge misunderstanding here. Because peace journalism is a very difficult term to sell. Because everybody thinks, okay, this peace, he has an agenda, right? But the peace journalism option is not to offer specific solution. It's to try to alter the perspective. And as Jake Lynch and Annabelle McCullers in their short definition, in a good textbook, good teaching tool called Peace Journalism Teaching, they say peace journalism is when editors and reporters make choices about what to report and how to report it, which create opportunities for society at large to consider and to value non-violent development response to conflict, which is a total different perspective than just repeating the words of the military and the politicians, right? To give, before we hopefully can go back to the table, to give this some historical context related to peace studies and peace education, which this is all about. And you have to understand this is a really, really young tradition. Whilst the other side, the academics for war, the war academies, they have going on as long as war existed. The most famous theoretical on war history and war theory, Karl von Clausewitz, he was himself a part of the Napoleon War, said the famous word, war is the continuation of politics by other means. Since then, war academies had taught officers the thinking of the traditional war narrative has been taught in universities for centuries. So we need to go in this field to go into the history of war propaganda. This fantastic book, The First Casualty, you have all heard the word, you know, truth is the first casualty of war, right? This is the name of this book. And Philip Knightley has gone through all the historical wars, from the Crimean War, First War, Second World War, Vietnam War, all the wars. and document how journalists covering the war at the front and in the newsroom tend to be a part of the war propaganda rather than be historically independent. So this is a good documentation. So peace and conflict studies is both a pedagogical activity in which teachers transmit knowledge to students and to research activity in which researchers create new knowledge about the sources of conflict. Peace and conflict studies entails understanding the concept of peace, which is defined as a political condition that ensures justice and social stability through formal and informal institutions. Galtung was the founder of this model of peace journalism. He was also the founder of the first academic peace institute, International Peace Research Institute in Oslo in 1959. And think about it. Now peace studies, it's all over the world, on all universities, but it's quite young, right? So I myself actually was proud to job at this institute for 4 years, 20 years ago. So, and that was quite an inspiration. So peace journalism has been developed from research that indicates that often use about conflict has a value bias towards violence. It also includes practical methods for correcting this bias by producing journalism in both the mainstream media and alternative media, and working with journalists, media professionals, audiences, and academics to implement this way of thinking. So how can it be used? You are, teachers, preoccupied with teachers. Can be for reporters, this here list here. It can be a checklist when you're out in the field. Okay, am I falling in that us-them trap here now? Am I just dehumanizing them instead of seeing there's victims on all sides? Are we focusing on only visible effects of violence? What about the long-term traumas? Things like that. Earlier historical experience, etc., etc. And this has now been the basic for curriculum in teaching on master's and bachelor levels, basically all over the world. We have a master course ourselves. Many other universities. It's also networking among scholars. There's an own peace journalism section in the International Peace Research Association, and so on and so on. Galtung wrote his article in 1992. I Googled this morning peace journalism and got 66 million hits. It's a lot of stuff. People are interested in these issues because basically ordinary people, they don't like war. And they want solutions. And they cannot find that in ordinary press in very heated times. My colleague Arts here mentioned the Venezuela. The other day I also had a talk where I used Venezuela as an example, which is quite interesting. I saw CNN the other day, and the question was, the reporter in Venezuela, he was preoccupied. Okay, when will US intervene? Will they intervene? Like it was like a natural thing, because now there are two parties, two dual parties. We have President Maduro, we have the opposition's leader, Guaido, and they both claim they are the legitimate leaders. And now it's the who will win battle between them. And the structural issues will an intervention actually be legal? It's all about humanitarian rhetoric. Why are the Venezuelan people not getting the food aid? Is the food aid perhaps part of the propaganda campaign? Because Red Cross, other NGOs who ordinarily distribute relief, will have nothing to do with this, but this is government subsidized food from the United States as a part of building up to the tension. So to do peace journalism in this circumstances is of course really difficult. I want to encourage you now to look at this sheet. And I would be extremely happy if we now, this is, you know, we are teachers, this is a classroom. If you can come up with suggestions by this table that could fit to the present situation, and what would the challenges for Pakistani journalists be in this situation? I don't have the answer. I'm really humble there. You know the conflict, you know the history, I know the techniques, but this has to be implemented very specifically. And you should learn your students this way of thinking. Broad-minded, see the other, not only yourself, etc. So, if we look at see them as the problem focus, for instance, and the peace journalism alternative is see the conflict and the potential war as a problem. Have you any observations you can share how this falls out these days? It would be interesting to hear. Yes.
I guess in the present scenario, when it comes to the Indian media was not practicing what is called peace journalism. Rather, they were like creating the hysteria for the war. And the Pakistani media, on the other hand, that is not as old as the Indian media is, and is not as expanded as Indian media is. But still, the Pakistani media was showing the restraint. But when from the Indian side, they were more political statements. They were trying. The political leadership was trying to escalate the situation. Then there were some statements from the Pakistani power corridors, and because those statements, the media showed the lines of the government, and there were also the escalative tone in the media from the Pakistani side.
Yeah.
So earlier, when the media was because media was following not a peace journalism in that sense that there was some conscious effort, but there is a thinking process within Pakistan in the media that we really don't want war. So that is where the Pakistani media was doing it. But when there was a reposturing from the government side, so there is a escalative tone.
Thank you. One more comment, and I have to wrap up. They tell me.
Okay, thank you. The thing is that we are always trying to look at the other side from our own, what would you say, glasses, you know? You need to take them off, okay? When you're talking about peace journalism, you cannot keep on saying that, you know, they did it first, who threw the first stone as in this. We're just talking about media. And we have to understand that, you know, one national song, which is made with a video, shows 2 Indian army men being killed, okay, who are the enemies for us, and then 2 Pakistani soldiers being killed, who are then shaheed, martyrs for us. Nevertheless, the point remains that 4 people have died, 4 youth have died. So we need to have the understanding in this, and with specific reference to our situation is this, that we need to stop being reactive. And peace journalism will always have to be long-term. It cannot be a short-term project. We cannot say, okay, today we are showing restraint, tomorrow we are not showing restraint, okay, day after tomorrow we will show restraint. So there has to be long-term. and it has to be taken as a policy which should prevail at all times.
Thank you. I have to end now. My time is up. But I think one opportunity for journalists actually is to, if you have this way of thinking, see the opportunity, because it's really difficult to challenge the politicians and the strong military. Self-censorship, of course, we know is a part of the problem. But look for the opening where it is. And I heard Prime Minister Khan's speech, and I liked that speech. There were some openings there, because actually he showed some empathy of the families. That's something that's quite rare actually in situations like this. And he also took in the historical perspectives and warned for the possible long-term consequences. Very brave in this situation, I think. I like the speech. And then the journalists should use this opportunity when the Prime Minister says things like that. Put it on the headlines. Where are the opportunities? Not just tumbling away to another level. Take a step aside and look, can we afford to start, come on, a nuclear war here? So I hope the Pakistani journalists use this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Otterson, for sharing these beautiful concepts on peace journalism. I believe the thoughts you shared today with us are very timely with this current conflict going on between India and Pakistan. Now, I would like to request upon the stage the presence of Dr. Altafullah Khan. He has joined us from FC College University, Lahore. He is a professor. He has been a professor at Institute of International Journalism at Scripps School of Journalism. As a professor of journalism and mass communication, he has served at University of Peshawar for 18 years as well. May I please request Dr. Altafullah Khan to grace us with his speech. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know that we are all tired, and it's a very long session. And I remember, I'll just share an anecdote. The UN Development Program asked me to go to Kohat. I went there because nobody used to go there, even from Peshawar. And I went there and sat and started talking. And then the organizers came to me, "Sir, the deputy commissioner has arrived. Could you make it short?" And I said, "I don't want to speak. I already had my money." So, so ladies and gentlemen, I'll be brief. I'll be very brief. Academics and journalists, they hate each other. We know that. Media academics and journalists. It's a known fact, you know. I have lived with advertisements in newspapers asking university graduates not to apply for a job in a newspaper. And I was a student at the University of Leipzig then, and I asked my professor, and he said, "This has happened in Germany too. This is nothing new." And I said, "What's the reason?" And he said, "The reason is that journalists think that we are living in our own boxes, and we think about the world the way we see, because we are normally upper middle class guys getting salaries to run our lives. Journalists, on the other hand, have to work with misery, corruption, and all sorts of hardships, and they don't see those answers. So I think we are right and they are wrong, because I'm an academic, but fortunately or unfortunately, I had the pleasure of being on the both sides of the divide. So I did a bit of journalism too, not much. But let me just state one example. We know about Panama Papers. Everybody knows it. Those who were affected thought that it was kind of a conspiracy. Those who are on the other side thought this was a great job. But we don't know that it was one of the greatest events in journalism history. Because this was one time in the history of journalism where journalists decide to forego all the rules that they follow. So it's Wolfgang Krach, the editor of Süddeutsche Zeitung, the Munich-based journalism, the newspaper, which broke the story. They got the data and they used it. And Krach in his, it's a 17 and a half minute speech, TED talk, you can watch it on YouTube, which is titled Globalized Journalism for a Globalized World. And Krach there tells us how they did it. And when we listen to that, and then we ask ourselves whether we are preparing journalists in any way to fulfill those requirements. Like we always say that we are teaching them ethics. No, we are teaching them books. We talk, the way we talk is not intelligible for everybody, Like we talk in our own jargon. It's good if you are a professor of English literature and nobody understands you because you have a niche audience anyway. But being a professor of journalism and nobody being able to understand is difficult. So Krach said that one of the most important elements of doing Panama papers was the use of technology. Do we teach technology? We don't. So in our journalism schools, do we hire data analysts as kind of important people to teach our students? We don't. So the world has changed, but our media studies and journalism, in Pakistan especially, we are mixing media studies with journalism, and we are creating a hodgepodge where there is a lot of ethics, but then when we talk about ethics, we fall short of that also. On the other hand, we need the journalism schools, which could prepare journalism beyond 5 Ws and 1 H. Then we, like Rune, you said, we can control all elements, but can we control the social media? You go on Twitter. I was on Twitter yesterday and the day before, and I said, they are going to put us into war. So you just use all the ethics you have in the media, and then the social media, you can't control it. So I think we are at a place in our history where we have to really understand that the world has changed. Journalism has changed. The very nature of media, the very definition of media has changed. Media is no more the mainstream media. It's kind of everything. Everything on internet is media. And social media has become more powerful than mainstream media. Even mainstream media journalists do take stories from the media, and also international journalism. They used to do this. This is their technique, that they used to post their raw ideas on Twitter, where they have a lot of followers, for which they pay most of the time. Getting millions of followers is not easy, but they try to blackmail their organizations to put their stories, because there is a great competition going on to get your stories published. Although we see there is a lot of space, but there isn't. There's very little space, and journalists have to fight for it. So I think the most challenging thing for media or communication teacher is to really understand what we are going to do. So we, in Pakistan especially, I'm not talking about the rest of the world. First and foremost, we have to develop journalism schools. And journalism school, not simply telling them how to edit and how to do that, or rather to open their perspective. And one of the most important things as a teacher is to open their perspective toward the realities of the world, not this narrowness of our discipline, because there is a very strong human element to it. I'll end it on Krach, who said that the money that has been taken away from people would have been used for something better. And he said, if somebody in a third world country is suffering, everybody is responsible. So this global responsibility should be taught within the local context. That's very important. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Dr. Altafullah Khan. Ladies and gentlemen, we are lucky to have among us the president of Shaheed Zulfikar Ali Bhutto Institute of Sciences and Technology, Begum Shehnaz Wazir Ali. She has a tremendous career as an educationist, development policy specialist, and as a member of the Pakistan People's Party. She has been twice elected to National Assembly of Pakistan as a special assistant to the Prime Minister on social sector, and has been a renowned women rights activist. Her career spans over a period of 37 years in the education policy and practice in government and private sector. She served as a senior education specialist in the World Bank and held the position of Minister of State for Education as well. I would request Begum Shehnaz Wazir Ali in your round of applause to honor this session with her keynote speech. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is truly one of the most remarkable conferences I have attended, not only at Zabist, but at any university in Pakistan. We are indeed very privileged to have such a not only distinguished set of speakers, but a very vibrant, provocative set of speakers. Those who have made us think very, very deeply about this whole world of media, communication, journalism, social media, ethics, and the different demands on the journalist community. And I use the word journalism to include all forms of communication. So we are indeed extremely appreciative and very grateful. Dr. Bushra Rahman Saiba, President of AMCAP, who have collaborated with us and who are co-sponsoring this national conference. And I wish to compliment you, Dr. Bushra Saiba, and wish to thank Dr. Abida Ashraf Saiba also for her informing us about AMCAP, which is very young, new, nascent organization. I think in Pakistan there was a urgent and compelling need for such an organization. And I say this because when you're dealing with universities and academia, there are accreditation bodies and professional bodies in most of the other domains. For example, there's the National Council for Computer Guides, academia and medical education, and so on and so forth. In practically all the fields. In engineering, you have a very powerful engineering council, Pakistan Engineering Council. But within academia, between academia and the world of industry, the world of communication industry, that linkage was missing. And also within academia, that linkage was missing on media. So I think AMCAP is in particular filling a void that has existed for a long time. And let me exemplify that a little bit. You know that we are regulated by the Higher Education Commission. All of you know that as young students and as faculty and as also our distinguished members and guests who are here, that universities function under a very clearly defined regulatory regime. And the only domain of studies that HEC, I think, is highly deficient is in communication, mass communication and media. It could be because it's a rapidly evolving subject and domain. It's a very modern domain. It's an area where till today, although Dr. Bushra, I do agree with you that research is being done, but still compared to the sciences and in many other fields, research and media is still limited. Because research, media is very much instantaneous. It's today, it's the event today. Although there is reflection and there is a lot of comment on how media is operating, but academic research in media is still very limited. So HEC has a difficult time. HEC has a difficult time defining what media departments should do, media and mass communication departments, and what are the standards. And it certainly has a difficult time keeping pace with the rapidly changing environment in media. And therefore today's session, particularly when we hear from Dr. Elizabeth Ide, for example, on climate change, climate journalists. How many universities in Pakistan are teaching climate journalism? Very few. But our media science department is well-grounded, it's well-founded. We have a BS degree in media sciences. We have an excellent studio, and I want to compliment Dr. Wajid Zulkarnain, who heads it. And I also want to compliment the head of campus, Khusro Parvez Khan Saab, for giving the media department a lot of support. We have a good, strong faculty. I want to appreciate the faculty of the media science department and the students for the wonderful work that you do I have visited your studios, your art exhibitions, your media presentations, your media projects. So the media department here is very vibrant. However, at the same time, we know that we must begin to change, we must evolve and develop. So I think when I heard Dr. Elizabeth, I was continuously saying to myself, yes, of course, we should teach climate journalism, one of the areas of specialization. Similarly, as we must teach conflict journalism that you heard from Dr. Murdoch on the screen. He talked about how transnationalism and neoliberalism, so theories of how the world operates, how the power politics operates, and even more importantly, how powerful transnational business interests operate. And he translated all of that and talked about the connectivity between communication, journalism, and transnational interests. And he talked about, of course, Associated Press and Reuters. And all of you sitting here know about Associated Press and Reuters. And I learned much more about it today as to how powerful they are in determining how we think, how we accept events, and how our understanding of the world and the conflicts of the world and the movements of trade, economy, and business operate. So I think media no longer is just about plain simplistic reporting of facts. It's come a long, long way from that time. I studied, by the way, my bachelor's is in mass communications, but I ended up in education. So, and at that time, certainly, we talked a lot about how reporting should be completely objective, no opinions expressed, no values insinuated or emphasized. And Dr. Bushra, you talked very much about Iqbal's philosophy and the philosophical understandings of individuals, communities, and societies. So media today is very much the heart of a lot of things. I certainly appreciated Dr. Rune Ottersen from Norway about when you spoke about peace journalism, because Pakistan today, more than at any time since 1971, is gripped with hysteria. When you switch on the channels, there's jingoism coming from India, there's panic, there's hysteria, there's hyped up media everywhere, social media, Twitter, when you switch, attend to your video, you go on the internet, anything that you look at. So we are being bombarded. And how important it is for our students to be able in academia to know that there is something called peace journalism. Not only journalism about war and conflict and trade and industry and vested interests and the business of media, because the conglomerates that control media, and we heard about it all, I will not repeat it. I want to appreciate Dr. Altafullah Khan. This is the first time I've heard you, sir. I'm extremely pleased to hear a voice from Pakistan that is so current with what is happening with media and how media can influence, of course, at a time like this in Pakistan in particular. Certainly you must have been paid very well by UNDP, because UNDP is a good paymaster. But I think the deeper thought-provoking takeaways that you have from your life, your experience, I'm very impressed. I'm very taken by this conference. I think this is one of the best, most invigorating and interesting sessions that we have had. I want to thank everyone who has been involved, thank AMCAP in particular, Wajid, all the students who are here, and the institutional arrangements that have been made at the Islamabad campus. I certainly would like this conference and its entire proceedings also to be transmitted, and I think we are live transmission to the Karachi campus and to our other campuses. As you know, that we have Larkana, Karachi, and Dubai. And what is happening right here in Islamabad is being beamed out to our other campuses. We have a media science department in Karachi, but not in the other campuses. But clearly, this is a very, very important area, very important domain. So I want to also recognize the presence of Justice Iqbal Hamoodur Rahman Sahab and your son, and Dr. Bushra's son. And he's probably almost ready to start his BS degree in media sciences. Thank you to each and every one of our distinguished guests. And we hope that you will continue a longer term association with Zabist. Both Dr. Otto and Dr. Elizabeth and Dr. Bushra, Dr. Altaf, Dr. Abida. We would like a continuing conversation, continuing dialogue. This, we hope, will become the center in Islamabad for academia and industry linkages, for us to really move the needle on media. Because all of us, at any given moment of time in our lives, if you think of your Twitter, social media is your primary source now of information. So we live in a very, very different society. And it is influencing us, affecting us. And so who should be the architects of the structure of this particular field, which connects and does cross-cutting transactions with every other field? I want just to mention very briefly, and I think I'm overstepping my time, that a few weeks ago, I was visited by the head of the Department of Dawn, the research department. And they said, you know, we have a lot of stories coming in from Associated Press and Reuters and agencies, the cross-intersectorality with other departments, which is very, very critical. I myself am a very strong advocate for studying climate change. I'm the chair of a premier organization here called Leadership and Development, Leadership in Environment and Development, LEAD, which does most of the research work on climate change. And I think as a strong advocate for peace journalism, and as a very, very strong advocate for understanding global trends today, whether it's in the economy, in business, and democratic dispensations, these are all very, very important areas that we've heard about today. So thank you very much. Congratulations to the Media Science Department, to AMCAP, and I'm privileged to have been here today, and I made a very special effort to be here today, especially in view of the fact that the flights are all cancelled. So excuse me for talking to Khusro Saab a couple of times during the session. I was trying to figure out whether to take the Daewoo back or to, to take the train back to Larkana and then to Karachi. So I think we live in a very immediate world, which is affecting everybody's lives. And what did I do? I used my media. I use my cell phone. I use the laptop, and you look at whatever gives you instant connection with information. So thank you very, very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Madam Shehnaz Wazir Ali, for your kind words. Now, I would request Dr. Bushra Hamidur Rahman to kindly present this shield as a souvenir of this remarkable conference to Begum Shehnaz Wazir Ali. Ladies and gentlemen, endure a round of applause.
I'd really like to say it's an honor for me to do that, because when I was in college, and Ms. Shehnaz really was a very big woman, a feminist, activist, and I was also just to look up to her. I'm so happy to do this today. Thank you very much.
May I please request all our worthy panelists to come in front of the stage for a group photo. I would also request Dr. Wajid Zulkarnain to join our panelists. He has actually made this conference possible today, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Wajid Zulkarnain. Thank you very much.
Can you ask all the AMCAP members to come and have a photo?
May I please request all the AMCAP members sitting in the audience to come, executive members of the AMCAP team, to come on the stage to have a group photo with our chief guest. Mr. Zaim Yassin, Dr. Zahid Bilal, Mr. Saqib Salim, Ehsan Khan, Lubna Khalil,
Actually, he's saying that let's have the picture outside.
okay, and all the other participants can proceed for tea in Hall 5 in the same building. Uh, Thank you so much for being a wonderful audience today. Thank you.